You have flown 847 hours with the most powerful man in the world. Now you are flying 212 hours with a man the world has decided is nothing. The aircraft is the same. A Gulfstream G550, tail number N441PX, registered to a private foundation in Delaware that has existed since 2019. The leather is the same, cream, hand-stitched, replaced once in 4 years at a cost of $340,000. The coffee maker in the galley is the same one that was installed in 2021. The same one that made coffee for heads of state and prime ministers and the Secretary General of the United Nations. The altitude is the same, 41,000 feet, above the weather, above the noise, above everything. The only thing that has changed is the passenger. And the passenger has changed completely. His name is President. You still call him President, internally, privately, because the title does not expire in your vocabulary, even when it expires everywhere else. James William Hargrove, 67 years old. Former 44th President of the United States, disgraced by a scandal that occupied 17 months of news coverage, 2 congressional investigations, and a grand jury proceeding that ended without indictment, but also without exoneration. The specific legal outcome that is worse than either verdict, because it leaves the question permanently open. He resigned on a Tuesday in March. You flew him from Andrews Air Force Base to his private estate in Georgia in a C-32 that was technically still Air Force One for 11 more minutes of flight time. He sat in the forward cabin. He did not speak for the entire flight. You kept the aircraft at 41,000 feet, and you did not speak either. When you landed and he walked down the steps, the press was there. He raised one hand. He did not smile. He went inside. You flew the C-32 back to Andrews alone. 3 weeks later he called you. Not through a staff member. Directly. Your personal number. The same number he had used 4 times in 4 years when something required discretion, when he wanted a flight arranged without appearing on official schedules, when the aircraft needed to be somewhere before the press knew he was going there. He said, "I need a pilot I can trust." He said this without preamble, without softening. The way he said everything, directly, as if the words between a question and its answer were an inefficiency he had spent 67 years eliminating. You said yes. You have asked yourself why many times since. The answer is always the same and never quite complete. Your official title is Director of Aviation, Hargrove Private Foundation. Your salary is $287,000 per year, a reduction from your Air Force salary with full benefits and pension that you left to take this position. A financial decision that several people in your life have described as inexplicable. You fly the G550, an average of 14 days per month. The destinations have included Palm Beach, London, Riyadh, Geneva, a private island in the Bahamas, whose owner's name does not appear in any public record, and on 3 occasions a small airstrip in Montana that serves a property whose existence is not publicly acknowledged. You file flight plans. You follow regulations. Everything you do is legal. Everything you do is observed. You are aware of both. The passengers change. Sometimes it is only him, the president, alone in the cabin, working or not working. The specific stillness of a man who once had 14 people in the room at all times and now has the leather and the altitude and the hum of 2 Rolls-Royce engines. Sometimes there are advisors, men and women who still believe in what he represents, or who need something he still has, which is not the same thing but looks identical from the cockpit. Once a meeting you were not meant to know the full purpose of, but which lasted 4 hours over the Atlantic, and ended with 3 people leaving the aircraft in London with expressions you have catalogued and never spoken about. You do not speak about what you see. This is not a contractual obligation. Your agreement with the Foundation contains no NDA, which surprised you when you reviewed it. and which you have thought about many times since. You do not speak about what you see, because you are a pilot, and pilots do not speak about their passengers. This was true when you flew commercial for Delta for 6 years before the Air Force. It was true when you flew the President of the United States. It is true now. The altitude does not change the ethics of the cockpit. At 41,000 feet, the only things that matter are the aircraft, the weather, and getting the passenger where they need to go. He speaks to you more than he spoke to you when he was in office. This surprised you. In office, he was efficient. A destination, a departure time, a brief exchange on landing. Now, on longer flights, he sometimes comes forward, not to the cockpit, to the forward galley, and makes himself coffee with the same machine that served heads of state, and stands with the cup and occasionally says something. Not about the scandal, not about the investigation, about the view, about the specific quality of light over the Atlantic at sunset, which is unlike light anywhere else, and which he says he did not notice for the first 60 years of his life, because he was always looking at the next thing. About a book he is reading. About his wife, who did not leave, which surprises most people but not you, because you flew them together for 4 years, and you saw how they looked at each other at altitude when they believed no one was watching. Once you are flying from Geneva eastbound over the Alps at dusk, the mountains gold below and the sky going dark above. He stands in the galley with his coffee and he says, without looking at you, without introduction or context, do you think I was guilty? You keep your eyes on the instruments. The Alps move below you. You say, that's not my question to answer, sir. He says, no, I know. I'm asking what you think. You are quiet for 11 seconds. Then you say, I think you made decisions that seemed right at the time in conditions that made right and wrong very difficult to distinguish. He is quiet. Then he says, that's either the most generous thing anyone has said to me in 2 years, or the most diplomatic. You say, probably both, sir. He almost smiles. He goes back to the cabin. You return your full attention to the instruments. The Alps are gold below. The sky is dark above. The aircraft holds 41,000 feet without effort. You are flying him to Montana next Tuesday. The same airstrip. The same property. You have filed the flight plan. You have not asked what happens there. You will not. At 41,000 feet, above the weather, above the noise, above the investigations and the verdicts that were not verdicts, and the 17 months of coverage, and the Tuesday in March, there is only the aircraft and the altitude, and the specific silence of a man who once held the most powerful office in the world. Drinking machine made coffee over the Alps, noticing the light. You keep him at 41,000 feet. That is your job. That has always been your job.